Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my podcast, Ask Me Anything. I've gone through plenty of ups and downs in my life and have learnt a lot along the way. But now that I've got a midlife crisis reinvention under my belt, I know it's never too late to learn something new. That's why on this podcast, I'm going to be talking to Kiwis from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. Today, I am joined by former All Blacks captain Kieran Read. Kieran's career in rugby spanned 15 years. He is one of our most capped All Blacks, having played 127 tests, 52 of those as captain. He won 2 Rugby World Cups and was named IRB Player of the Year in 2013. It's been a little over a year since Kieran made a major career change, leaving rugby after a stint in Japan. Nowadays, Kieran is a leadership consultant, and today he joins me to talk about that big life shift, with some advice and tips on how to do it, and possibly some advice on what not to do. Hi, Kieran.
Hey, good morning. Nice to see you.
Did I get all of that right?
Yeah, it sounded pretty real, pretty right, I think.
That's good, because there's a lot in it, and you've packed quite a lot into that 15 years, but we can talk about that. There are 2 rules. First is, it's called Ask Me Anything, so I'm allowed to ask you anything. But the good news...
I thought it was me asking you.
The good news is you don't have to answer. You don't have to actually answer anything. And second, we do no judgy.
Yep. No, I appreciate that.
We're all over that. So that's it, really. Apart from that, we just get to have a chat and sort of ease in. So shall we ease in with some of my supposedly quick-fire questions? Give us a favourite book or movie, and it can be from childhood or it can be now. Yeah,
look, I think a book and movie, I guess, is Harry Potter, actually, for me. And I think it's from my kind of adolescence there. When it first came out, I was in that right age group. And then my kids are reading them now, which is awesome, and watching the movies. So I've got a rule in my household that you got to read the book before you can watch the movie. So, yeah, my 11-year-old's got through them all. I just turned 10. She's up to the sixth book. So we're reading that, and then she'll be able to watch the movie. So, it's something I just really got into when I was little, and I'm stoked my kids are into it as well.
So that's a book and a watch, so that kind of works for it. Now, I suppose 15 years in professional sport, your favourite meal could be quite different now to what it was then, yeah? Is the diet not quite so restrictive?
Yeah, definitely, probably, let myself go a little bit in what I'm eating now than what I used to, but look, I'd probably, I was going to have my perfect meal. It'd be like a really nicely cooked steak, probably a scotch or, something like that, with enough fat in it, with some beautiful chips. I couldn't resist some probably thick cut hot chips would be my best meal I could go for.
Now, you'll have spent a lot of time on buses, I imagine, travelling around and all that sort of thing. You must have a go-to karaoke song or sing along on the guitar.
My music's probably slightly different to a lot of the guys I played with, a bit more alternative rock and roll, but probably to get up in front of people, Mr. Brightside by the Killers, I think would be one. And also in karaoke, you can't go past La Bamba, which goes pretty good.
Just go for something that people are going to either sing along to or get up to, eh?
Exactly, yeah, it gets everyone involved, so it takes the pressure off yourself.
Okay, well, here we go. This is the big one. Counties or Canterbury? You grew up in Counties, now living in Canterbury. You played for both. Who do you support?
Look, I support both. I still do. Like, I think if I'm honest, I support the Crusaders, and then I support Counties and the NPC over Canterbury. I know they played on the weekend. It's an awesome game between Counties and Canterbury. So I played for both teams, and now home is Christchurch and home is Canterbury. So definitely the kids are growing up with that in their minds down here.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I mean, I consider my te ranga waiwai is Waikato, I'm Tainui, and so it really, there is that connection to the land and you feel it. And so parents, chiefs, all the way through and grew up like that. But I've been in Auckland since 1991, and my husband and I, we just about 10 years ago said, you know what? Some point you've got to support the city you're living in and back those Blues. So my husband only refers to them as his beloved Blues because
that's the one.
You'd say that for some time to actually feel it, I think.
Well, that's it. Like, I grew up obviously up in counties, and they were the Blues initially, counties as a rugby team. So I supported the Blues. And then they went to the Chiefs, and you despised the Crusaders in Canterbury because they were so good coming up there. So it's quite a change, when you come down. But as soon as you get in here, you kind of get mixed up in everything that's so good about this place. And so, this is home for us now.
Kieran, we're going to chat to you a little later about big life changes and specifically changing careers, which is something we have both undertaken fairly recently, and both after 15 years in a fairly high profile and pressured sort of environment. But first up, let's get to know you a little bit better. So as we were just saying, you grew up in South Auckland, in Papakura, a counties Manukau boy. So what was your childhood like? Were you always sporty?
Yeah, I was, Like it was, probably call it the quintessential childhood for us, middle of three boys. And we lived in a cul-de-sac in Papakura there. So spent all days outside. If we weren't kicking a ball around, one of the neighbours had pumice in their front lawn, so we could get them out and draw lines on the cul-de-sac and set out our field if we're playing inline hockey or mark or touch or whatever it was. And it was kind of a congregation spot, I guess, for a lot of kids around the neighbourhood. So, spent plenty of time outside, learning the ropes on lots of different stuff, I guess, in life and in sport. And for me, having an older brother, I just followed him around and tried to chase him. And I was pretty competitive, trying to beat him as soon as I could. So that kind of helped me, I think, later on. So, that was it. Went to Roseville College in Papakura, which was a great school, not a rugby school or anything really, but I think I had this passion for sport. And so I kind of just kept working at it, never really thought where I was from, there was no real pathway, I guess, or people who had done it for me and from that area. But counties was a big rugby region, a lot of talent, but maybe not the chance to push on. So, it was just, I think for me, sport was a big part of it, plus also just enjoying what South Auckland offered, which was for me and my mates having some pretty good times.
Yeah. And you must have been quite good at school as well. So academically, you held your own?
Yeah, I was. Like I wasn't, I was a good student and I applied myself and things like that. Like I wasn't an A student, but I was in the higher classes at high school and stuff. And probably if I spent as much time as I did probably, playing sport and stuff after school and my schoolwork, I would have been, I could have been pretty decent. My brothers are the smart ones, went off to university. One's an engineer, one's an environmental management degree and all this. So it took me, I've just finished my degree. So I finally, the last one of our family to get a degree. So,
and what did you get your degree in?
In applied management. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, kind of like one of those retrospective looks back on my career and learnings, and so the real portfolio on my life. So it was really cool to download all that and do that. While I was in Japan, I was able to do it up there. So it was cool, but 20 years later than what I was anticipating, but it's cool to get done. Yeah,
but that's that kind of life learning, right?
100%. Like I think I started university and I was doing sports science and sport coaching before I made it as a professional rugby player. And all that stuff, you actually learn so much more when you're doing it, You go to a lecture and learn about sports coaching. I go and get coached by some of the best coaches in the world, and learn all these different things. So you pick up so much more, I think, in that whole real life scenarios.
So you sort of touched on it because you did a wide variety of sports in your younger years, but up until about 18, you thought it was cricket, didn't you? Cricket is the way to go.
Yeah.
We're a cricket family. Dad played for Auckland in his time, so spent a lot of time at cricket fields, I have. So did you kind of then discover rugby, or it became that passion? I mean, how did you get between them?
Yeah, like I was passionate about both in terms of watching it, playing it. So I played both cricket and rugby all the way through, did athletics and stuff up till I was about 13, 14. And it was like my dad was like, cricket bat or athletics shoes. And so I said, cricket bat. So I carried on with cricket when I was kind of at high school. But I made more representative teams as a cricket player than a rugby player as I was growing up, and probably did more training in cricket. So during winter, I'd be training for cricket. During summer, I wouldn't train for rugby. I'd just be playing cricket. But so during winter, I'd stop in at the nets and I'd have some coaches come in. So my dad who was driving me into school, would stop in at our local club, Karaka Cricket Club, and a coach would come along and I'd hit balls in the nets and stuff. So I don't know, I was probably on the path to doing a bit extra than what most people are doing. And I think I wanted to, I think I definitely wanted to play cricket for New Zealand and stuff. And rugby was maybe a dream that I had, but I didn't quite believe rugby was maybe I could do it in rugby. I didn't have confidence in rugby as I possibly did in cricket.
So you've played both cricket and rugby to, I suppose, what they'd call quite an old age in sporting terms. You're so not old. So it makes me funny. But in that context then, is it something you would encourage young people to do rather than commit to one early?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like I'm quite, passionate about what's happening now in terms of like specialising into sports. I just don't think it's right for the athlete, and I think what it does, it burns them out. It makes them robotic. You lose this passion of what you're doing it for. So I know some sports you'd specialise, like gymnastics and things. There's a different ages, but for team sports and things like that, I think it's important to be trying out different things. And that goes along with the whole schooling system as well. You don't have to go to this one big school because they produce All Blacks or they produce White Ferns or whatever it is. So, I believe if there's something inside you that's burning and, you can have fun with it while you're at school, there's plenty of time once you finish, and you can put extra time in it when you need to.
Yeah. So how's life now since you've left professional rugby? I'm not using the retired word.
Yeah,
because people use it on me as well, and I'm like, it sounds like I should be sitting out the back gardening and, thinking about the retirement village. So I refuse to use the word retired. So we say, since you've changed careers, what's life like for you at the moment, though?
Yeah, good. Like, awesome, actually. Like, to be honest, it was refreshing going to Japan a little bit after being kind of in the spotlight for, a long time with the All Blacks and obviously captain and things like that. So Japan for kind of 18 months, 2 years was quite a nice transition period for me, where there's no pressure at all. They don't do media over there. No one cares how you play. It's all just having fun. And we work hard and the team wants to be successful. But it was a real nice little break. And as I said, like I was able to, through COVID, my family didn't go up, so I was able to study full time and smash that out and get that done over the time I was there as well. And so, it was nice to kind of put myself on track to what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get into leadership and create my own kind of business. I didn't want to work for anyone. It's been on the schedule for so long and hard to go into something where it's, doing it for someone else again. So I had some ideas and put them down on paper and had a few people help me out. And so, now I'm doing a mix of things, So I've got my business, which is a leadership consulting business, going to businesses and talking to their execs or their teams about high performing, it's under pressure, culture, leadership and stuff like that. And then mixing in a bit of media stuff plus some speaking gigs and things. So I'm enjoying that because then it allows me to spend some real genuine good time with my kids and as a family too. And
you can schedule around them a bit as opposed to how life used to be, which was they had to schedule around you, I imagine.
Yeah, 100%. You were given this calendar that you had to be here, then there, whatever, for so long, and you didn't get your weekends and things. And, you had training that day, so you can't go see your kid's speech. So, like my daughter's in through the speeches tomorrow, so I'll be able to go and watch her and leave that day out or go see athletics day or go to camp with them and stuff. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Did you all adjust quickly? Because my family freaked out, right? They were used to me being away sort of 4 nights a week at least, and then all of a sudden I'm there. And so it took some adjustment.
Yeah, they did. So they adjusted to me being home really quick. So especially kind of there wasn't much travel, since when I got home with COVID floating around. So then when I went away for like one night, it freaked them out, after being home for a bit. They're like, "Oh, we really miss you, Dad." I was like, well, I was away for 7 months just previously, and I'm normally away like weeks at a time and stuff. So, I think they adjusted reasonably quick to me being home and me being present, so which was cool, I think, to know that they actually, really care about me going away now and want me there, so.
And has your wife adjusted? It's probably the harder one, right? You're not fighting over the remote, or she's like that. We've been doing it like this for, now you think you can step back in.
Well, I think, your husband probably knows they get in their routine when you're away and and you come home and you stuff it up, don't you? So, it's been
particularly when you had little ones, right? Yeah. You need a routine more than anything.
Yeah.
So, and then Dad comes
now
home.
She's kind of like, you're still because I just work from home, and it's like, oh, you're still here kind of thing. Go and get out. So,
yeah. No, well, hopefully she's gone and doing a lot more because, quite frankly, you can take care of the household duties a bit more.
Yeah, so no, it's cool actually. She gets to do a little bit more of that, a few more weekends away with her girlfriends and stuff, which I guess doesn't normally happen. So, which is nice.
Yeah. Earlier this year, I read that you've not been going to the gym and lifting weights. You're still in that mode?
Yeah, I'm still in that mode. Yeah, I haven't gone into a gym. I got a few dumbbells in the garage, but I haven't touched them. So, no, I'm just keeping fit by running and going on my bike and things. Yeah, so more of that aerobic stuff, which it definitely keeps you fit, but without real intensity in it. So I'm enjoying that.
And you've dropped weight, since leaving?
Yeah, I have. I think this is probably my natural weight. Around, like, it's about 100, just under 100 kgs, I guess, something like that. Whereas that's maybe, 10, 12 kgs drop from when I was playing. But you did the gym pretty hard, protein shakes and eat a lot. And you had to work quite hard to keep the weight on. And so really I think it's just a combination of a lot of things that maybe dropped a little bit of weight. But I'll try and keep it that way because I know at some stage it will turn around. So, while I can exercise and feel good, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to ask you the question that I get asked a lot as well, but in reverse, I suppose, which is, do you enjoy watching the All Blacks and watching rugby? Because I get asked about politics, on a daily basis as well. So I'll ask it because there'll be people that'll want to hear your answer, So how do you, because I saw you at the airport that morning. You remember we were both heading to Auckland and I said, oh, you must be going up for the game tomorrow. And you went, yeah. I would have been playing a few years ago and now I'm going up as an old boy, to the dinner tonight.
Yeah, it's different. Like as you said, people still want to ask me about rugby, like, so if I'm out and about, it is rugby that I talk about to everyone and they want the opinion. I think it's easier now to give an opinion than when you're playing and you met someone and they said, oh, what about that game and stuff? You didn't really want to share too much, I guess, when you're involved. But now I think I can share a little bit more. I still watch, and I obviously working for Sky at the game, so I'm there and watching, and like I know half the team and the coaches and things, so I kind of still care about them. But I can genuinely watch it as a fan and just enjoy the game. Yeah, well and truly can do that. I think you've still got a little bit of analysis happening because I know the game very well and you know how it works and what things should be happening. So maybe a bit more than the general public who's watching it. But no, I just want them to win and want them to do well because you know what it's like, and you kind of feel when it doesn't go well, you kind of know exactly the pressure that's on there and everything that's happening. So, yeah, you feel for them 100%.
Yeah. You'd be fascinating to sit next to while a game was going on. Watching the America's Cup, I was really privileged to have one of the crew from one of their boats that had fallen out at that point. And he would go, the skipper, he's currently thinking whether he's going to do this and this is why. And as you say, that kind of strategy and the analysis behind it, hearing it from someone who was just so there was absolutely engaging. And you'd be a bit the same. I get a bit like it with politics. Shut up,
you do you go. You're analysing, and I'm never going to come out and say anything about it, but you're like, oh, why are you doing that, or what's going on here? But anyway, you feel like an expert in some ways, I guess.
That's right. And you've still got to support and just get in behind, and it's something you love, eh? Yeah. So, up next, we get some advice from Kieran on changing careers and find out a bit more about what it's like leaving professional sport and embarking on a new career. So Kieran, we have you on today to talk about your experience changing careers. That's something, I've been through in the last couple of years as well, a major career shift. After playing 15 years in professional rugby, what was it like to walk away from the sport and even make that decision, or was it kind of made for you with the body and what was sort of going on?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess my time was done and I was happy and the wife was giving me hints and in terms of where the family was getting to too. I think it was at the point where I was definitely ready to finish. I couldn't play on New Zealand much longer than I did to 2019. The body wouldn't have handled it and I wasn't mentally willing to put in what I needed to do to perform at that stage. So Japan was cool to bridge the gap, drop down a little bit of the physicality of what the game was about but more mentally was refreshing. It was amazing to just, and maybe it would feel like, as a lower player where you just literally turn out to training, do rugby there, go home and forget about it. Whereas for a big part of my career, rugby stayed over me. For every time you drove home, you're thinking about it. Definitely as a leader and a captain, you're constantly thinking about ways to get better. So the mental side is draining on you. So in Japan, it was cool not to have any of that. And I think it just got to the point where the body was probably saying, that's had enough. And as a family, we're like, we don't need to be doing this for much longer.
Did you make the decision and then was there a lag before you went public with it? Because that's a weird time as well, eh? If you've kind of made up your mind and then you've got to sort of think about the timing of making... Yeah,
there was. So I think maybe naturally it was going to always happen in New Zealand after 19. And so I was always going to happen. I kind of felt like the experience of going overseas was going to be cool, so we just decided to do that. We had a look around the world. Japan made sense for us. So and then just getting that timing right, which we did early. 19, so it was out of the way before we even started playing that year. It's there.
So, and we're going to talk a bit more about what you're doing now. How were you led to that kind of career change that you've made? And when did you start thinking about it? Like you decided you were going to leave the All Blacks, you decided you were going to do a stint overseas, which makes sense. Yeah. When was it we're coming back and trying to think what that career would be?
There's a lot of work done in rugby around professional development, and each union has a manager there whose job is to help young people forge a career outside of the game, if that's work experience or study or whatever. So you get it given a lot when you're younger, but you don't think about it. You go to the sessions, and I went to the sessions and did all this stuff. But it wasn't probably the last few years of my career in New Zealand that I was genuinely looking at what I could do post-rugby. And I love kind of coaching / leadership. I love kind of being involved in that space. I love trying to help people. And so I was looking at ways to utilise, what I'd learned and things. So over the last couple of years of my career, I was doing a few different things. Like I was involved in discussions. Like I went to Brooklyn Nets and met with Sean Marks and a few of the guys up there and discussed a few different, how they do things. And I was just meeting people and finding out about what it's like to be a real leader and stuff. And and then just got to the point where, okay, this is what I want to do. How's it going to work? And in Japan, I kind of thought, all right, what's going to look? So I kind of wrote a program out. I've done this degree that was really a kind of portfolio on myself, on my life. And so all my learnings that I took from rugby were down on paper now. I was down, 100-page, 30 thing. And so from that, I just plucked out, okay, this is a great lesson in terms of growing a leader. This is a great lesson when you're leading under pressure or situational awareness. We need this and this and that. And that's all the learnings that I learned off coaches, captains that I was under, so kind of plucked that out, kind of created a little leadership module booklet thing, and basically, utilize that into what I do and just constantly evolve it with what I'm doing now. So
So I've got no doubt that with all of that experience and just the man of integrity you are, that you would be very good at what you're doing. But actually getting the work's a challenge, right? You're your own business. So putting yourself out there, utilising the fame and the fact that you're so well known, and being able to kind of blend that into then actually getting the work is a challenge in itself, isn't it? You've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you do. And I'm pretty hopeless at that, to be honest. So I've purposely haven't pushed it too hard this year. Like it just started. I only just really started this year, and I've had enough work, and there's things that have ticked over. I'm just I'm feeling it out really in terms of what works best into large groups or small groups or more mentor stuff and things. And word of mouth's crazy, and LinkedIn is amazing. So just through connecting with people on there and literally just putting up a couple of posts on that platform, and people around the world get in touch. And so really it's kind of been the way of creating some work. But it is for me, to suddenly go into and doing it myself, to book times and costs and all that stuff and put it together. It's kind of not my strong point, but something that's, makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable doing it. But putting me out of my comfort zone, which is good actually, and kind of keeps me, fresh and different things happening.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you touched on a little bit earlier while you were talking, and it's around that professional development for professional sports people as to what does a post-sports career look like. And I heard you say that they've got someone that actually helps with some of that mentoring and that support in that area. And I think that rugby, I'm trying to work out how long ago it was where they picked up, actually we've got players who are genuinely struggling once they leave, and that they did take some responsibility in that area. And of course we've seen other sports. John Sutton has recently opened up about how hard the transition was and perhaps not getting the level of support that he felt he needed and others did. Can you talk to us a bit more about that support and what sort of happens with players and if you think it's enough?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's enough, really. I think it's really hard. Like, even for me, that I feel like I was pretty over what I was wanting to do, and in a position where I could take my time to figure out what I wanted to do as well. You still struggle. You still go from this whole structure and seeing some of your best mates every day and doing that to suddenly being at home and, not getting any of that stimulus or anything. So it's hard. Definitely.
And it's
hard.
something you're good at, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the unknown.
Yep. The total unknown of it all. And so people are still struggling and out of, rugby, I know, I'm not sure about other sports, but I'm sure it's the same. It's hard, that whole identity piece and stuff. So for a lot of people. And so rugby's doing, and they're doing enough, but yes, it comes down to the individual as well in some aspects to utilise that help during their career, which is sometimes you don't think you need. And then when you finish, the Players Association is brilliant, really. And they've got people there. That's their job, to look after you when you go overseas, help you if you need to get into study or have a conversation with someone or some work experience, and past players. But, it still comes down to you as an individual willing to admit that maybe you're not quite right and putting your hand up and say, look, I need some help, rather than people putting the help on you. So, and you know what it's like in New Zealand, we're not good at putting our hand up and saying, I need some help. So I think a lot of us and a lot of people just probably battle on. And I think they did a study, and it's, I think it's about 2-3 years before you actually feel like you're worthwhile to kind of your life again if you've finished professional rugby. So, it's a long time, mate, to feel like you're giving back to, or get back your spark or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it must be really hard with, particularly those guys in their early 20s, if you like, and you're an All Black, for crying out loud, and we all know how much New Zealanders just absolutely are awe-inspired, and it's one of the biggest things you can kind of do in this country. In that respect, to actually be trying to talk to them about what a post-career might look like, it's like, I'm 22, I'm bulletproof, man, I've got the best job in the world, and you're telling me that somewhere in my head I've got to be sorting out what I might be doing in 10, hopefully 10, 12 years' time, exactly. Right? And you can kind of, if you sort of add in a bit of male ego and you put in a bit of, as I say, just the way the public loves them, it's not easy to be setting people up for what that next career might be.
No, it's not. And I think you don't necessarily need to know exactly what it's going to be then, do you? But I think probably the important thing around that stage for those young people is either, which would be nice if they've studied or they've worked before they've come in. It just gives you perspective. A lot of guys don't now. They come straight in and just school to rugby, and, it's no real quite understanding. But really, I think at that age, it's more a case of what they need some help around is their finances. It's getting a house. It's looking after your money in the right ways that will set you up. So hopefully 10 years' time, you're still going, or however long it is, you're not rushed into something at that stage. So, it's a tricky one when you're in the midst of what you're trying to do is, be a great rugby player and think about something else. But it can help you in different ways, I guess, across that whole evolution of as a young player to when you're going to leave.
I suppose the big difference between politics and rugby is that the body won't last forever. And in politics, it doesn't have to. And in fact, I could name a few that have been there decades, and the brain doesn't even have to keep working and you can stay in politics. There's a
you want to name anyone?
Yeah, let's not, No judgy, remember?
Yeah, no.
If the public is still stupid enough to vote you in, well, you get what you put yourself forward for, really. Let's talk a bit then about that shift mentally for you then. I mean, I'm feeling slightly jealous that you had Japan, because I get that, you got to sort of step away, reevaluate, still be doing something that you loved and you knew you were good at, but really take that time to study. Whereas I think part of mine was my age. So I was in my 50s when I left, and I was like, right, I know I want another career. And where do old politicians go when they leave? And that's very varied as to how successful a post-politics career is. So for me, I went, well, I've got to go while people still might pick up the phone to me.
Utilise it, as you say.
Because a lot of people did take 12 months off, and to be really honest with you, you probably needed it. I probably needed it, but I didn't feel like I had the luxury of that, because then by the time I'd be putting my hand up for another career, everyone would go, well, where have you been? You know what I mean? Like, you had your moment and now you sort of want to come back. Anyway, so you had the Japan stint, which gave you that little bit of reassessing. And then you said 2 or 3 years, and it can take that, right? How have you adjusted to such a big career change and the public's perception of you?
Mentally, I'm pretty content that I'm not going to get what I got playing for the All Blacks and doing that. So I know some people say, look, you got to find that next thing that's going to get that same feeling that you had, like running out in front of thousands of people and representing your country. And I'm like, well, where am I going to find that? I'm not going to find that, So I'm content to not have to be in that space and have to do something that's, remarkably crazy. Like but what I will say is that I feel I've got something. I feel like I've got something that I've, in terms of leadership and teams, that I can really help. And I actually genuinely love helping people and imparting that stuff onto people. And so, like, I'm kind of in the mental space of I'm relaxed of how it looks like. Yeah. So I'm not saying I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Like, I know I'm relaxed enough to know that whatever it looks like, I'm happy to go here and try this or try that. But you want to be able to do it well. And when I'm out there and talking to businesses or whoever it is, sports teams and things, like, I genuinely care about it, and I care about what I'm trying to give to people. Yeah. So it's just getting, I think for me, that mix right. Mentally, because as a competitive person and been doing it for so long, you kind of feel like you do need something to keep pushing you, but knowing too it's not going to be the same as what it was.
I rang John Key to say that I was going to publicly announce that I wasn't going to stand at the next election, and he said to me then, you will never find the rush and you'll never find a job like it, but the time is right and you should, by the way, he said, and go while some people still like you, and you know what I mean, like that. And I just really do relate to what you're saying, because, I sort of accepted pretty early on. I just sort of thought, and mine completely different, right? But it's certainly when I was Deputy Prime Minister, the level of decision making, that complete, as you say, it takes over all parts of your life, if you like. You are consumed by it, and you're genuinely able to make decisions that change the direction of the country. And so there is nothing quite like it, which is quite nice. Like, once you get into that mode, it's like, well, that's all right. I had my moment, man.
Yeah, it is. As you say, I think it's just different, eh? Like, it's actually okay for it to be different. And they're like, oh, you must miss it and things. I'm like, well, I actually really enjoy what I did, but I don't miss it at all. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, well, what I try and do is, because people don't like politicians that much in politics, so what they go is that you must be so pleased to be out. And I now find I want to do a balance where I go, I love my life. You know what I mean? Like, this is the best decision for me. But I loved what I did. Because they almost expect me to have hated it. And it's like, well, I wouldn't have done it for 15 years if I hated it. Like, it was a privilege. It's something I'm proud of. But this is really cool too.
Yeah, my career is going to be with me for my lifetime, You're going to be former All Black captain. And people are going to, when they interact with me, it's going to be about rugby that they want to talk about. But it's that whole kind of mix for me of going, well, I've got a lifetime still to go, Like, it's like, wow, I would love to do something that's I don't know if it's going to be as well as what I had in my rugby career, but I hope to do something that I'm remembered by that's just as important, perhaps. So who knows what that looks like. But as you say, we haven't retired. We've changed. I'm 36, so it's like, man, I've got a life left to live. So. Yeah.
Hey, I went into politics at 36, so don't rule that out. Don't rule anything out.
Oh, no, nothing's ruled out.
Yeah, good.
Maybe politics, but nothing.
So let's give some advice to people that might be thinking about a career change and at different times in their lives. So what advice would you give to someone that's perhaps sitting there right now and going, actually, I'm not loving what I'm doing. I've mentally checked out a bit. I'm thinking about doing something different. What advice should we give them?
Yeah, look, I think, it was forced on me, but I believe that you've got to weigh it up first. I think look for generally what you enjoy has to become a part of it. And then you've got to figure out, what's your priorities? Is your priority your well-being, so being able to spend time with family and things, or do you want to work hard and do it this way? So I think if you figure out what that is, and then maybe the decision will become a lot clearer. And is the job you're in right now giving you what you need?
Yeah.
Hey, if it's not, then you can probably do something about that. So I'd say figure out that side of it before we make the decisions, or help you in terms of making the decision. And then I think post that is that when you do, remember you're not starting again. You're bringing all this IP that you've already got. And so a lot of us rugby players go into jobs and forget that, man, a lot of people in business don't know how to work together as a team. Like that was as rugby players for so long. We can work with anyone and know how to put a team in a direction and align values and do all this stuff that are really amazing things that people in corporate or business world, they don't quite understand it. So there's a lot of skills that you can transfer from what you've done into what you're doing next.
Yeah. I wasn't completely sure that my skills were transferable. And then mentors like John Key just laughed at me.
But 100%, wouldn't it? Like all being able to deal under pressure, make decisions, all these things. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing now. Like, and even in this role, like there must be heaps of that stuff that transfer.
Yeah. Heaps, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Kiwis
it wasn't
just say, no, we can't do it.
Yeah, and it wasn't a problem, right? But in my head, I had to work my way a bit through that. I was going to say for people that might be thinking about transitioning as well, the timing is great. I mean, just with unemployment where it is, and actually I think there's a lot more recognition of different stages in life and that you're not going to do a lifetime career, and sometimes timing's not so good. And at the moment it feels to me that for the next sort of 2 or 3 years, there is a time where if someone was looking at something quite different and quite new, that those opportunities are going to be there more than perhaps they've been in the past.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also, from what I've read and stuff, is that you can dictate a little bit more, like, hey, look, come into your new role with your expectations of what you want it to look like. And employers are more willing to, if they want someone good in the role, then they're willing to compromise and do it in slightly different ways, which is how the world's going to head, and which is great for everyone. And it's how it should be. We can get work done without having to slave away, and can still get to your kids' things and work in late or come in early or whatever you want to do. So, work that out.
And I think that kind of for me as well, there was sort of a fear of something new, and I didn't know it, right? And then I ran for 14 different portfolios. I think I can learn something new, I'm still capable of that. But I was even saying to my managing director the other day, we were travelling together and having catch up, I sort of said to him, I'm used to being the best, I'm used to being near the top. And he just laughed at me and he goes, well, you are, you're all right, you're doing fine. But it took me a couple of years, and I'm surrounded by people that know so much, and I'm like, wow, I'm stepping into something really new here.
I'm the same. Like every time I go out and speak to a business or something, like I don't perhaps feel like a fraud, but I feel like someone like, I don't know, you don't feel like you maybe, you can impart exactly what you need to or want, because you just feel like, what I'm teaching, is it worth what I'm saying it is, So, but you realise quite quickly how important it is, and how much it does mean to a lot of people. The stuff that I've learned that can be really relevant. And yes, my stories come from a rugby background, but it so correlates to a lot of different things, really. anywhere in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite important.
And I think you do get to a sort of stage and age and all that sort of thing where you're quite comfortable in saying what you don't know. Right, so if you're going in and doing almost a form of business advisory, you are in these sort of leadership roles. But it's like, as you say, you would be one of New Zealand's renowned experts in leadership and teamwork and how you get the best out of each other, set yourself a goal and work towards it. But I'm probably not going to be your technical advisor on the intricacies of your sort of business. And I think if you know your lane a bit, it's a bit safer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think in that space, great leaders listen. Like listening is the crucial part of it, and then understanding your people, understanding them. So you don't need to know the intricacies of what it is exactly they're doing to be a leader. So yeah, that's a couple of things that you can do and I can do coming in.
So you were always a leader though, do you think? I mean, you were head boy at Rosehill, you've obviously shown, and that's, I'm not going to say unusual for middle child, but you know what I mean, like, and you're a middle child as well. So you've got someone younger to boss around, and then you've got someone older to look up to, don't you? So that's kind of cool. Yeah,
like it's strange. Like if I look back at my youth, I had no idea I was a leader. I don't know how I would have bluffed my way through it because I couldn't speak in public. I was very shy. Come on the sports field, I was captain of cricket teams and stuff, and I put my name forward for like house student at Form 6 and then head student Form 7, maybe because it just felt like it was what was done. I don't know, but I was never confident in my ability there as a leader. So yeah, I think is leadership born or as it grow on? Like, I think there's a potential that you have that you could potentially get to, but you only get there if you're helped along the way, like by really important people in your life and by giving confidence in yourself. And so it took a lot of different people to get me to the point where I truly believed that I was a leader because, for a long time I didn't. Well, I've got absolutely no doubt that there are a whole bunch of people out there that actually look up to your leadership and you would be someone that they would have named. So thank you for that. All right. Okay, here we go. Because the podcast is called Ask Me Anything, I now like to give you the chance, Kieran. You're allowed to ask me anything. Oh, I think, I'd love to know how you dealt with those people who wanted to get in your face when you're on the public trail or after maybe something had happened or that didn't go too well. How did you deal with that side of it? And it's a bit topical because this week we've had the Deputy Prime Minister coming out and saying that he thinks it's getting a lot more violent out there and unsafe and that sort of thing. And so I have been thinking a bit about it. And I'm not sure. Well, I'm not on the trail anymore, so I don't get to say how it is now, but they were always there. There were always pockets that were going to disagree with what you're doing. So, number one, I liked it about New Zealand. Yep. Actually, if you're putting yourself out there and you're... be a part of it? Well, if you're putting yourself out there publicly and you're doing a controversial role, if you can't handle the heat, don't start the fire sort of thing, right? And I also accepted that, particularly the portfolios that I had, and I also accept that I made change, big change, and I accepted that change is scary, and a lot of the changes that I made were for some of New Zealand's most vulnerable, and that must be incredibly scary, right? So sometimes when the odd person would get angry and be really shouting at me, I just think, actually, you're just bloody scared. And I'm the person that kind of represents a pretty shitty life you're probably living. And I'm here and you can take it out on me. And I used to honestly think that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. And I think if you can understand where someone's coming from. Look, I definitely had belligerent nutters. And I say that in the way that they were either conspiracy theory or actually on the verge of violence. And I would just never. I actually handled face-to-face and in public meetings a lot better than I handled social media hate. Because I know that sounds weird, but at least you could look someone in the eye. You're in a public meeting. Yeah, I feel that. You could get to know a little bit why they're where they are, and you'd have a chance to explain why or you did whatever you did, and so at least you generally could have a chance at a corridor and actually maybe come to an understanding, whereas that sort of behind the stuff was often a bit more difficult, and so I just learnt not to read it and walk away and that sort of thing. I think, it's the same. It's like going, I've never read all that media stuff and things because, why would you? Positive or negative, it's not going to help you or do anything for you, really. So, but as you said, I think the key thing was like the perspective of it is Kiwis want to talk to me and come up to me if game went well or not because they care about what you're doing. It's like, so even if they're getting into you for a bad game, you got to go, oh, they actually want us to do well. And I love that expectation of our fans, which was cool.
And people say to me, and still say to me, I'd never do that job because you get so much crap. And I go, 99% of New Zealanders are wonderful. They actually go out of their way to say thank you and give you a smile and a wave. And I don't know what reminded me of it the other day, but I was genuinely having lunch with the family and I went to pay and someone anonymously had paid for my lunch and they wouldn't tell me who. And they just said this person just wanted to say thank you. It was just such a random act of kindness, right? And I hope it made them feel good because it wasn't so much about the paying. It was just the fact that someone had wanted to do something genuinely nice. It's cool. Right, okay. Okay, in the podcast, we have a segment called Zip It Sweetie, a bit of a vent on something that's happened in the week. So for me, mine's happening. Tomorrow is the public holiday and it just seems a bit weird. Now, I love a day off. Don't get me wrong, I'm planning on going fishing, so I can't really, complain about it. But it's more that it just seems so weird. And I feel like if we're going to have the holiday, we should have had it days ago while the funeral was on, and that if we really wanted to mourn the Queen in that way of having the time to reflect, actually we've all kind of moved on, and that's healthy. And she would want us to. And so I'm just, look, I'm not a great venter on this one because I'm going to take advantage of my day off. But I do just find it all a bit weird. Okay, what do you want to say, Zip It Sweetie, to?
Oh, yeah, I like that one actually from you. I think right now, I want to say to the referees of international rugby is to zip it. And stop ruining the game. Stop making the games last forever. Just let the game play out.
You sound like my husband. I hear that shouted at the TV. Yeah. A lot, I've got to say. Hey, thank you, Kieran, for your time today. It has been absolutely great to chat, and I think there's been so much great advice in there. I know that I do, and I know everyone that's listening just wants to wish you all the best in your career. Okay, so where can they find you if they'd like some of that great leadership consultancy, perhaps in their businesses, or to get you to speak to them?
Yeah, so you can find me on nzherald.co.nz. or on LinkedIn, just find me on there.
Perfect. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Ask Me Anything. You can get in touch with me by emailing paula.bennett@nzme.co.nz. Please feel free to send me through your questions for the podcast or any thoughts you have. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram or LinkedIn. Make sure you follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also read my weekly column in the Herald on Sunday. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.